Hey, what is up? It's Not Newbie back again for yet another stream. What's poppin', y'all? I see Mr. Blue Penguin's in, not Mr. Blue Penguin. Blue Penguin Studios in the chat. What's poppin', my guy? Nice to see you in the chat here. Got some interesting things to discuss this stream, I feel like. So it should be a fun one. Is it just me, or is the stream a little bit choppier than usual? Could be that I'm running out of space. I've been recording on my VODs now, which in hindsight hasn't been the smartest move, but it does mean that I can just quickly, boom, like edit my streams into video clips, which has been really nice. Blue Studio said, I am bored right now. Well, hopefully I'll be able to entertain you enough to make you be not bored anymore. That would be that'd be the goal here. We've got a lot of interesting things to cover today. Some very interesting things to cover. A lot of news stuff, but we got some culture stuff going on. I don't know if you guys saw that HBO Max is no more. HBO Max is dead. It's now Max. And actually, hold on, if you give me a second. If you give me a second here, I actually have the HBO Max. Well, not the HBO Max. I actually have the Max app on my tablet. Although, well, let me see. It might be better to show you guys the app on the phone. But if you guys want me to, I can show you the difference between the two apps. But frankly, the coolest, well, actually, no, you can't even use, whoa.
Said in the chat.
Yo.
It just renamed.
You can't use HBO Max anymore. I was literally using it today and taking some screenshots, but now you can't, you literally can't access it. Because I knew it'd become like a piece of history. So I did want to take some documentation of it. But now it's completely dead. Wow. That's crazy. I thought for sure that the app would be up for at least a day, but no. But it stinks because the HBO Max app is just a little bit janky. Just a little bit. Oh, Blue Penguin Studios, you changed your name? What did you change your name to?
Blue Penguin Studios. Said in the chat. And added Discovery Plus stuff.
Yeah, literally everything from Discovery Plus is on Max. So I actually downloaded the Max app. So I don't have to worry about not being able to access, any HBO Max content. So the major hubs that have been added, and actually, I don't know if this would be a good application of the second camera, but we can give this a shot here. So if we look at the HBO Max app here, the main things that they've added
Penguin Studios
are,
said in the chat. I was talking.
Oh my goodness, that looks terrible. That looks terrible. But TLC, HGTV, Food Network, Discovery, Magnolia Network, which includes all of these very homey shows. Let's see what else got added. What is this? Travel Channel, I think. Investigation Discovery. So those are all the new hubs. Those are all the new hubs that you get with this new streaming service. So it's kind of cool. It's one of those things where it's all that stuff is not for me, but I feel like if I had a family, they would absolutely love having all that content in Max. Because HBO Max already had a lot of things I liked. But I don't know. You're not gonna catch me watching no episodes of Fixer Upper anytime soon. You're just not. So HBO, Max is not for me, but I'm sure it's for somebody. a broader audience, to be honest. Let's see. In a minute here, I think I'll go ahead and get into the politics of the day. Political news. But if you want me to shoot the breeze on something else before I go ahead and do that, here's your chance. I've got the mystery special gummies. The special gummies. No, these aren't funny gummies. These are just gummy bears from Haribo. They're tasty. They taste good. Doo-doo-doo-doo. But man, we've got all types of things. Ron DeSantis running for president. We've also got stuff going on in the Arizona race. I think I might start things off with the the Arizona race, just to kick things off.
Penguin Studios said in the chat, Haribo twin snakes are my favorite.
I've never had twin snakes, but I think I've had their clones, like something that like knockoff brands have made to try to copy them, and those have been all right. I mean, I do agree that like twin snakes are better, but these come in more individual pieces, which at the end of the day, I think leads me to eat less. Because if you take any gummy, like for me, it's like, oh, I'll have like 5, 6, 7 pieces. 5, 6, 7 twin snakes is a lot of candy. So, anyways, this spooky doopy Minecraft remix of the X-Files theme has gone on long enough. Let's go ahead and dive into the news of the day, because I think it's high time we went ahead and started doing that. I'll go through all of the news and stuff that I feel like reacting to, and then if I still feel like streaming after that, I might just game. But we'll see. We'll see how the night goes. Let's see here. So a lot of you guys, if you're really into politics and following the situation that's been going on in Arizona, basically during the last governor's election, there were some shady things that happened, and it turns out that Katie Hobbs ended up winning that election over Carrie Lake. Now, Carrie Lake has been salty, and it's understandable to see why. A lot of shady things happened. I'm not going to get into all those in this video, but things looked very, very suspicious. And so Carrie Lake has been fighting viciously ever since, I believe it was 2020, when the election actually took place. Ever since then, they've been fighting all these legal battles. And we now have the most recent victory. And this is a major victory because one thing that was at the forefront was there were some ballot boxes, some voting machines that mysteriously just stopped working in the major precincts in which Carrie Lake was winning. And so everyone thought that was fishy, pretty much everyone, because you had all these long lines where the majority of Carrie Lake's supporters were there to vote. And when they went to go vote, they couldn't, because the machines we were going to use to vote stopped working. So now we have this new legislation that got passed that bans electronic voting machines in the entire 2024 race in Arizona. This is amidst, of course, Katie Hobbs trying to veto this legislation. Let's see. So it's called Senate Concurrent Resolution 1037, prohibits counties from using EVMs that contain electronic components that are manufactured, assembled, or tested in foreign nations that pose a threat to the U.S. So it doesn't ban all electronic voting machines, just ones that were made using parts that are basically sourced in foreign countries, which basically means all of them, because, I mean, who really makes electronics without using slave labor these days? So we have the quote here from the Arizona Senate Majority Leader, Sonny Borelli, who said, back in 2017, the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security issued a statement clearly designating elections infrastructure as critical interference, which means these electronic systems must have safeguards in place to prevent any attacks which threaten our national security. So, I mean, it seems very simple. Very, very simple legislation, very, very simple policy. I, for one, I'm happy about it, but I think the major downside is that, one good thing about these voting machines is that it makes it quicker and easier to vote and easier to count up all the votes. Because since we can't do electronic voting, I would assume that not only will all the votes be cast by hand, they'll also have to be counted by hand, which I guess is already how it works. But it could make the process of counting all those votes longer. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think it'll be too much longer. Excuse me. At the end of the day, it'll be all right. I think the nice thing is you're not going to have any sort of fiasco where there's even a question about the election. Because, hey, if people are voting by hand, you don't really have any recourse to say, oh, they cheated because of the ballots. We saw Donald Trump come out with all of these claims in 2020 about the election and how it was rigged. You got all those thousands of mules and, dumping ballots and all of these things. You kind of get rid of that the more that you simplify the voting process. And this sort of does that. So if Kari Lake does this and loses, then hey, she's got no one else that she can blame but herself. But now all this does is take away the excuses that losers in these elections can use to complain about elections. Now, I feel like, this is making Katie Hobbs look really bad. And, a lot of Democrats have been doing this too, where they've been going oh, well, we can't, simplify our process or put in these safeguards to protect our elections because that disenfranchises voters. In the face of a lot of deficiencies in some of these elections, this just makes them seem like they don't want the elections to be secure, even if that's not true. I think in general there just needs to be a move to take away any claim that these folks who have lost elections can use to say that the elections were illegitimate. Because if Donald Trump says, oh, I lost just because they dumped all these ballots in very specific places, then change that system up so that people can still vote, but also Trump can't use that excuse again in 2024. That just seems like a winning strategy to me. But some of these people are just bent on using this new method of voting specifically because it benefited them this time around, which I don't think is right or the best thing to do. But this is just how they decided to do it. So it is what it is. But it is nice to see, at least in Arizona, some things changing. But yeah, that was very interesting story there. Got another story coming up here soon. This one's actually partially in request of not DJLL, but of ISM. ISM kind of wanted me to talk about this. And also news broke about it. So, anyways. Let's charge ahead with this next topic right here. All right. So we have some massive news in the 2024 presidential race. Ron DeSantis is joining the fray. He's going to be announcing that he's running for president. Apparently he's going to do so on Twitter. Now, kind of ahead of the official announcement of this, Ron DeSantis posted this video to his YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and take a look at this, kind of see what this campaign ad is all about.
They call it faith because in the face of darkness, you can see that brighter future. A faith that our best days lay ahead of us. But is it worth the fight? Do I have the courage? Is it worth the sacrifice? America has been worth it. Every single time.
Yo, there have been so many indications that he's running for president, and there's some of these that I'm gonna point out. The first one is the fact that this says launch. So it says text launch to that number. Seems to indicate, well, hey, maybe he's gonna announce a launch to his 2024 presidential campaign. We also have this indication that I kind of noticed when I was looking up Ron DeSantis to find that video, is that when you search Ron DeSantis, and one thing you gotta know about these search results is a lot of times they're cached, so they'll have some slightly old data, but it's generally recent. Like, you're seeing videos here that were posted like 6 hours ago, 7 hours ago, 8 hours ago. But when you search Ron DeSantis, one of the results said Ron DeSantis, and the handle was at Ron DeSantis FL, because Ron DeSantis is, the governor of Florida. But when you click it, I guess they fixed it. But when I first clicked it, there was a glitch, because if you go to Ron DeSantis Florida, the link, and there you go, I just reloaded the page here, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because his page no longer has that handle. His handle is now, hold on, let me search that up again. His handle is now just at Ron DeSantis. No at Ron DeSantis FL, which seems to me that it's like signaling some sort of like broader national campaign, because he's no longer just, governor of Florida. He's now running for president of the United States. But on top of this, of course, it's been said that Elon Musk is going to be talking with Ron DeSantis, interviewing him on a Twitter space, and announcing that he'll be running for president. And actually, Elon Musk himself said that he would be doing an interview with Ron DeSantis at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. So probably the day that this video right here drops. So this will be kind of interesting. This will be kind of interesting. He'll also be going on Fox News, being interviewed by Trey Gowdy at 8 p.m. This whole situation is kind of interesting. Like, we already know that Ron DeSantis is rivaling Trump in many key polls. In many cases, at least tying Donald Trump, if not, not Donald Trump. In many cases, tying Joe Biden, if not beating him in many head-on presidential election polls. So it definitely seems to me like, Ron DeSantis has a lot of support outside of even announcing he's running for president. Now that he's announcing he's running for president, I would expect that his support would increase, at least by a little bit, which to me makes it seem like he is as strong, if not a stronger presidential candidate than Donald Trump. I think that, there's some things about Ron DeSantis that, personally I don't like him, but, his rhetoric, I think, is appealing to a broader amount of Americans. So, I think that this is probably going to be a good move for him. I think that at this point, he might even have a higher chance of winning the presidency than Donald Trump, considering how much support he has without announcing he's running for president versus everyone else in the polls having already announced that they're running for president. The majority of them having announced that they're running for president are getting far less support than Ron DeSantis. So, like, this is a crazy move that's going to really rock the 2024 presidential campaign, I think. So I'm really fascinated to see how all this stuff is gonna play out. I don't really want Ron DeSantis to win the nomination, but hey, I wish him no ill will, and I'm still gonna be very interested in hearing what he has to say throughout his entire campaign. Yeah, so I guess that's something that we'll follow, through the course of these various streams. That should be fun. Let's see here. All right. So here we've got the actual part of the stream. The ISM stated that he wanted me to talk about. And I'm gonna get in hot water for one of these takes, but I don't care. All right, let's see here. Let's see. So I got a question from one of my viewers who wanted to know my take on the whole Ron DeSantis situation. Ron DeSantis is running for president, and he wanted to know what I thought about him running for president. I personally am a Republican, a relatively hesitant one, but I'm a Republican nonetheless. I voted for Donald Trump twice, or once vicariously, basically, through my dad, who didn't really... we didn't really want to, vote for president, but I kind of like swayed his mind at the last minute. 2016, 2020, I was able to vote of my own volition for Donald Trump, but now I've sort of soured on the guy, personally, for various factors I'm not going to get into in this video. But now I'm kind of shopping around, looking for a GOP candidate that I think I can rock with. I've looked around DeSantis, and he's not one of those people. And I'll tell you the primary reason why, and then I'll give you a couple examples of this. But my main reason of why I don't like Ron DeSantis is that the guy is for big government. And I really do think that big government is sort of the cause for a lot of the systemic ills that we see in the United States government. So, like, for example, and I'll just go through some of these here. Now, granted, in all these examples, I'm not saying that Ron DeSantis is wrong about the problems that he's trying to address. As a matter of fact, I actually think that he's right about like most of the problems that exist in society. He's just not right about what the solution for them is. And I actually agree with Ron DeSantis on a lot of moral values. Now, whether or not those should be legislated or not, those are things I think where we disagree. But take a look at this. Here's the most recent example of a policy decision by Ron DeSantis that I just completely disagree with. Well, actually, this is not the most recent one, but this is one of the recent ones. So, Ron DeSantis, earlier this year, signed a bill that removes some special privileges that Disney enjoyed. So, there's like a little legislative amendment here, and I'll zoom in case you guys can't see. But the amendment, it ends Disney's self-governing status, their exemption to the Florida Building Code, the Florida Fire Prevention Code, exemption from state regulatory reviews and approvals, secrecy by ensuring transparency. It ensures that Disney will pay its fair share of taxes, prevents governments from using the situation to raise local taxes, imposes Florida laws so that Disney no longer receive preferential treatment, blah, 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 blah. And, especially if you're like an ANCAP, like if you're against capitalism, which I'm not, but if you're against capitalism, or if you're against like, crony capitalism, then you might be like, oh, well, these big governments, shouldn't, be, these big government, not these big governments, these big companies should not be able to enjoy all these ridiculous benefits because it's completely unfair. And so, while I do think that, giving these big companies, such as like, Amazon and Intel, these special privileges, grants, and money to build, to build stuff and create jobs in your state is sort of an admission of defeat, because it shows that your state on its own merits is not attractive enough of a place to actually create jobs. So I think it's actually kind of sad, honestly, whenever I see a state offering that. Putting that all to the side, none of these reasons are why Ron DeSantis is doing this. Ron DeSantis is doing this because Disney is woke. And as much as I can say I don't like wokeness, I don't like gender ideology propaganda, at the end of the day, it is Disney's First Amendment right to espouse these beliefs. The same right as it's my, the same situation where with me, it's my right to say the opposite. So, if we want businesses to be able to be, let's say, anti-woke or, maybe not woke, we shouldn't be punishing businesses for being woke and for supporting the gender ideology and all of the left-wing lurches that have been, been pushed in the current culture. So for me, I see this very much as like kind of like an anti-free speech, also a completely political and retaliatory move. And I don't think that we should only be supporting or allowing the flourishing of various corporations just because we agree with the politics of the company, right? Like, Florida should not be a state where only conservative companies can thrive, or only conservative companies are given special privileges. Like, if you're going to give special privileges, at least give them to just big companies that are going to, bring lots of jobs to the state, not be like, oh, well, they've got to be woke or they've got to be anti-woke. Like, no, man, that's nonsense, and that's completely unfair. So I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But here's the most recent bill that he passed. So he passed this one. Let's see. He passed this one recently. He signed a bill into law. Now the headline kind of sugarcoats it. It's like it targets hate crimes, following anti-Semitic incidents in Florida. And it was hard for me to find a headline that wasn't sugarcoating this, because most of them were just like, oh, it's just anti-Semitism. Like, this is like a pro-Semitic bill, a pro-Jewish bill. But it's not just that. So here's one of the paragraphs that really sums up beautifully my issues with this bill. So it said, throughout the state in recent years, there have been neo-Nazi demonstrations where people were harassed, swastikas were spray painted or projected onto buildings, walls, and roads, and pamphlets with anti-Semitic messaging have been tossed into yards in the Tampa Bay area. Lawmakers said these types of acts will now be considered hate crimes. Now, I will say that when it comes to, there are two things, of course. There's the moral thing, and then there's like what should be legislated, right? So when it comes to what should be legislated, we already know that, if you're tagging buildings and stuff, messing with, other people's belongings, or if you're harassing them, that's all illegal, right? Like that's illegal. So this just makes those acts hate crimes. But, with things like, giving out pamphlets that have like anti-Semitic propaganda on them, again, is yet another anti-free speech move by Ron DeSantis. Now, of course, I'm sure that, somebody's going to look at this video with an extremely surface level take, or, they have an agenda or whatever, and they're just trying to make a specific point, to call me a name or something. But, some people will probably hear my statement saying that people should be able to hand out anti-Semitic pamphlets and say, oh, well, you're anti-Semitic, you're racist, you hate Jews. And, first of all, no, I don't hate Jews. Hey, all my money is in the banks. Like, I do not hate the Jews at all. They have done wonderful things for this country. I'm just messing around. I'm just messing around. But in all seriousness, me supporting the ability for people to hand out such pamphlets, not the fact that they do, but the ability for them to do so, is purely out of my support for the First Amendment. And you have to realize that, the First Amendment is not only for speech that we like, it's for speech that we dislike. And, the only reason why it was even created was to protect speech that people didn't like, because there's no need to have a First Amendment protection for speech that everybody likes. That's redundant, because no one's going to go after you for speech everybody likes, because everybody likes it, clearly. So I especially value the First Amendment as a Christian, because we've seen, look at Canada, right? People are getting arrested for praying, not even out loud, for praying, silently to themselves. So to me, I think that, the First Amendment needs to continue to be consistently applied. People need to be able to speak their mind and state their opinion and express their beliefs without being persecuted for whatever those beliefs might include. Now, again, I'm not going to be crying that anti-Semites are going to be able to give out pamphlets in Florida, but I will say that this is a warning sign that, free speech, at least in the state of Florida, might be on its way out. And even more dangerously, Ron DeSantis might put in policies that are anti-free speech while he is president, if he ends up winning the presidential election, which I think is extremely dangerous, because while I don't think as a Christian Ron DeSantis will crack down on my speech, he will pave the way for other presidents to crack down on my speech. So let's say that Ron DeSantis puts in a law that says you're not allowed to criticize Christians, right? Or like you're not allowed to criticize Jews, okay? Then somebody else comes after him, repeals that law, but then puts in a new law that says you're not allowed to criticize LGBT people. Like that, you're not allowed to criticize Satanists. You see like the problem here? So this is why we need to be really careful when it comes to wielding the sword of the government at these largely cultural issues. So, and we could talk about the cultural issues that play with anti-Semitism later. That could be part of a different discussion. But I do think, at the very least, Ron DeSantis is way too big government for me and very much anti-free speech in a way that Donald Trump really isn't. So I do think that while I like Ron DeSantis' rhetoric better, more or less, I almost think that Donald Trump might be better president, even though I think he misused some of his powers. I'm just not a big fan of Trump either. Neither of these are just great people, but at the end of the day, I just don't think that Ron DeSantis is going to commit, I don't think that Ron DeSantis is going to put in policies that at the end of the day, as a Christian, would benefit me and benefit other Christians, across the nation. So it kind of stinks because I love the way that he presents himself. And I also agree with him on a lot of social issues, but just when it comes to the policies, man, I just can't get down with it. So I'm gonna pick a GOP nominee, or at least I'm gonna support a GOP nominee who is a little bit more supporting of the freedoms that we have in America, because we have these freedoms for a reason, and I don't think that we should shut them down just because the woke mob is out here trying to get all the traditional folks like. I know it's a stupid reason. We shouldn't throw away all of our. We shouldn't throw away all of our civil liberties because there's certain like woke mobs going amok. I just don't think it's worth it. Alrighty, let's see here. Got a couple lighter subjects. Let's ease into this next one, shall we? We can ease into this next one a little bit. So we can ease into it with a somewhat political one. But, it's still very funny and very silly. Let's see here. Oh, excuse me. Y'all probably know what The Verge is. It's a tech blog that's basically run by NBC. And I kind of like it. They talk about some interesting things, but I do think over the years, The Verge as an outlet has kind of been on its way out, kind of been declining in quality. And here's an example of just a terrible take, a horrible article by The Verge. It's called, Shut Up and Mint the Coin. And the little tag is, finance is just a fancy meme, which on the face of it sounds stupid. But, to be fair, it's not stupid. It's incredibly stupid. This is one of the worst. This is one of the worst fiscal and political takes that I have read in a long time. This is by, Elizabeth Lapato? And the funniest thing is, it says she used to be a reporter for Bloomberg. Emphasis on the word used to. But let's read this, yo. This has to be a meme. There's no way this can be real. But I think it is. I mean, I don't see any /s or anything denoting that this is a joke. But she literally says, "It's time to mint the coin, sickos." Let's see. So she mentions the national debt, right? The debt ceiling talks. But she says, there is a way out, and it's been known for years. What we do is mint a 1 trillion platinum coin. What? That's absolutely ridiculous. That's hilarious. I'm glad that we're not doing that. But who thinks this is a good idea? Who thinks this is a good idea? Who actually understands, what inflation is and how inflation works. This is so silly. This 2003 is an increasing level of nonsense from our elected officials around the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling is a limit on government spending that was instituted in 1917 when there's a Democrat in the White House, and sometimes even when there isn't politicians. So basically, when we have a president, why would you say when there's a Democrat in the White House and sometimes even when there isn't? That's like, hey, look, it's like, hey, when I have work or when I don't, it doesn't make any sense. Anyways, politicians decide that playing with the debt ceiling is a great way to get their pet policies passed. These buffoons love playing chicken with the idea of defaulting on our government debt. Why they think this is cute or funny, I don't know. And then it lists a bunch of years in which this was the case. We've had to sit through a bunch of farce about the debt ceiling. And I do think there's something interesting about what she's saying there. I think that it's just selective outrage, because I do think that we shouldn't be borrowing any more money. All of the government's money should be coming from taxes, right? And if if the citizens aren't making enough money to pay the amount of money in taxes that would cover our yearly debts, then either the government's spending too much, or the citizens aren't making enough money, and the government needs to put in policies that will cause the economy to thrive in a way that citizens will make more money, and then they'll pay more money in taxes. I have a whole radical tax policy in my head about that maybe we could talk about at a different time. But I do think that in general, the government just wants to spend, and they don't care whether or not they raise the debt or not. And that's why I think this is all selective, because usually this only occurs when there's enough of a majority to trigger a debt ceiling halt, and thus a default. But anyways, let's dig back into this. If we hit the ceiling, the U.S. may default on the debts, which can potentially mess up the entire world economy, which is true. America, while we're on the decline, still a international powerhouse when it comes to the financial world and everything. I strongly suspect the productive talks going on right now are basically cosplay so the markets won't freak out. I don't know. One thing that is interesting is that Joe Biden did say that he is willing to go into default. So there is that. And I don't think any president has said that before. That's rather interesting. So she says, this lady says, there are theoretically adult-sounding ways to revise the law to fix this problem, but I invite you to contemplate our elected officials. Nobody in Congress seems capable of even pretending to act like an adult. Well, it's probably because she is most likely a Democrat. It is thus mostly paying attention to Democratic lawmakers. So she says, so in that spirit, I present to you the coin, which is cool as heck. She says, what happens is that the U.S. Treasury mints a platinum coin and deposits to the Federal Reserve, and Congress is moot. We know that the coin is legal, and this is true. What she's saying here is true. The Federal Reserve can mint this coin whenever they wish. This is not like crypto, where only a certain amount of the coin can be minted, at a certain rate. This is something that the Federal Reserve can just arbitrarily mint, which I think is a problem in and of itself. But this is just how the system works. So let's see here. The former head of the U.S. Mint said it could be done. So and she says, so I think the main objection is that it comes from people who have been ruined by the internet. No. The main objection comes from people who understand how economics works. The major problem with minting, in case this hasn't popped into your head yet, the major problem with minting a $1 trillion coin is that it will spike inflation drastically. We cannot afford to have a situation right now when inflation is at a pretty high level, to be honest, right? Like gas is twice as much as it cost when Trump was president. That's how dramatic things have swung. Inflation is at an extremely high level. We want to mint a $1 trillion coin. Do you have any idea of what effect that will have on the value of the US dollar? Like, we can mint a $1 trillion coin, send it to whatever countries we owe debt to, pay off all of our debts, but then everybody else's money will be just like worth like monopoly money. Like, it'll instantly be like become like basically as valuable as the currency of Venezuela or Cuba. Like, this is literally the policy that will destroy our currency if we decide to do it. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so, yeah, she does point out that this comes from, like, mostly online people. Like I said, the idea came from a comment section of a blog in 2011. She said, in theory, it's not a great idea. No, it's not. This is a terrible idea. Then she says, in practice, if we don't do it, the debt ceiling standoffs will never end. Well, I mean, these standoffs are better than lighting your currency on fire because you've racked up a ridiculous amount of debt. You know, this is like let's say that you have AIDS and someone gives you a pill that can cure you of AIDS, and you take the pill, but the problem with the pill is it gets rid of your AIDS, but it also kills you. So it's like, what's the benefit here? You know? Like, yes, this will get rid of the national debt, but this will also make it so that nobody will really use the dollar seriously for any sort of international finance, like, period. Like, this is just bad. This is just bad. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible idea. Like, I don't even know if I want to. I don't even know what I want to. I don't know if I want to even read the rest of this. This is just stupid. Oh my goodness, man, that's just awful. And then how? And I just now realized that if these foreign governments, like, let's say we mint a handful of $1 trillion coins and send them to China, how are they supposed to cash that out? No one will have the change to give them the money. So let's say they want to spend like 1 million of that, they can't. This is just so stupid. This is such a terrible idea. No. Like, I agree with Elizabeth Lepato here that, you know, in theory, this doesn't make sense. But I just disagree that in practice it makes sense, because it doesn't. Oh my goodness. Oh man. It would be hilarious to see this happen, though, just to see the entire economy collapse. Wow. Well, I think we've learned a very valuable lesson today, which is don't take financial advice from The Verge. Oh man. Man, it's gummy bear time. So because it's gummy bear time, I'll take some more chats and whatever if you guys have any questions. By the way, I guess we're kind of in an intermission. I think it's fair to say that we're at an intermission. So give me a second here. I'll play some nice intermission tunes. This song is, I guess, what is it? Breakcore? It's a breakcore song that's been stuck in my head for a little while now. I found it literally on like an IG reel, so technically probably a TikTok. But it's called Shimasho by Tema. It's kind of a bop. It may not be your speed, but I like it. It's a lot of fun. Very, very fun song. I very much dig it. You guys, my entire target audience probably hates this. Because either you're too old and mature, or you're still a kid but you're not cringe. So, like, this is like cringe people music that I listen to most of the time. So I listen to my music, my glitch chord, my hyper pop music, and I don't expect anybody else to care about it. Oh man. I in fact actually learned what hyperpop was because PewDiePie's fans were bullying him for listening to it. Kind of a weird way to find out about a genre. Probably, you know, the least weird thing about the genre as a whole. Yeah, doesn't this song make you want to dance? Probably looks so silly. Alrighty, intermission music is over. It's a fun track. It's a fun track. I like that. I dig that. Alrighty. So we've got basically just two more things to cover here, more or less. Let's see here. Let's see. Alright, y'all. So HBO Max is no more. Completely destroyed, absolutely terraformed. As a matter of fact, you literally can't even use the app anymore if you have it downloaded on your device. It literally will just show you that page. You can't use HBO Max at all. You're forced to use Max, which stinks a little bit, specifically because the Max app kind of sucks a little bit. You know, I'll demonstrate this here with the tablet version because this is a lot more severe in the tablet app from what I've seen. But basically, whenever you're using this app and you try to scroll at all, go anywhere, you're going to be met with a bunch of choppiness. And I kind of realized that it's because it keeps on unloading the thumbnails and then reloading them. Let's see here. And then reloading them. So if you scroll like way down. Well, let's see here. If you scroll way down and then you scroll back up, it'll start trying to load those thumbnails again. Like, it's an inefficient way to program the thing and it just causes lots of lag because whenever you're scrolling, basically it's is reloading everything. So that kind of stinks. But at the end of the day, I think the design is not terrible. And the app as a whole isn't bad. But I think what people care about most is the content that's on there. Because they'll fix all of the interface issues. But what people really care about is the content. Now, the big reason why they're doing this is because with Warner Brothers Discovery, they're merging Discovery Plus in HBO Max to create Max. And what this means now is that there's an incredible amount of content on Max now. There already was a lot of content on, there already was a lot of content available on HBO Max because it had stuff from TNT, stuff from, HBO, Cartoon Network, all that stuff. But now it's got a lot more content. Through the Discovery Plus merger, now Max has content from like TLC, Investigation Discovery, HGTV, all those types of things. So if you're like a fixer-upper nerd who also likes the Batman movies, I think this is going to be the perfect platform for you. Now, I know that that's a Venn diagram that not a lot of people fit in, but I do think that one of the best things about this platform is this is going to cater to multiple completely different audiences in a way that I think Netflix kind of wishes that they could, but in a way that only Warner Brothers Discovery can do because they've been doing it at such a high production level and at such a high quality because they've been doing this for decades on cable television. So I think it's kind of cool. Like the idea that you can subscribe to one streaming service and you could have a complete film nerd who wants to have access to, a fair amount of movies that are on the Criterion Collection while having somebody else who only watches Cartoon Network cartoons, and then somebody else who only watches like reality shows and like shows about like cooking from Food Network and, you know, building houses up from scratch. That all that can be done on one same platform, I think is really going to make Max an even more of a killer app than it already was with HBO Max, because you heard all the people saying when HBO Max was out, that it was the best streaming service out there, because even then it already had a great variety of content, and Max has even more variety of content. Now there is some content from Discovery Plus that hasn't made its way over yet. I think some of that might make its way over there later. There's also some content from Cartoon Network that didn't make it over, that had been cut from HBO Max. I was expecting it to be available on Max at launch, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're also trying to leave some surprises for us. Some announcements later on to be like, oh, this is coming to Max now. It's a dumb strategy, but I'm sure that they're doing it. So I'm very excited about this app. I think that once they fix all the kinks, this will be a killer app. This could be the Netflix killer. I think that it would be hard to see how Max does not become the number one streaming platform for streaming stuff on demand. So that's my take on it. I'm excited. I know some people might be nervous, but it's going to be all right. Seems pretty fire from what I see. I7 said I watched some Max last night. It doesn't stink because all the shows from HBO I watched still exist, but you get some Discovery shows too. Exactly. And I think that's where Max's strength is going to be. Like, I think they kind of summed this up perfectly, actually, with their marketing. They've been saying, there's more than just one you, which I think is maybe doesn't make the most sense, but there's going to be more than one person added to profiles in most streaming service plans, right? So you can easily just, especially once you start watching stuff on Max and the recommendations start like really working and kicking in, like, you can just open up Max and it'll just show you old movies, just, old films. Or you can open up Max and just start showing you stuff like Fixer Upper or like Rachel Ray Cooking in the Kitchen. Like, this seems like an app that's designed to conform to whatever type of content you like to watch. Like, whatever content you like to watch, it's basically going to be here. I've even heard that they're going to be putting live sports into the app too. So that's going to be insane. Also, all of the Disney Plus, not the Disney Plus, all of the CNN Plus shows are going to be on there. So if you were hankering to check out those CNN Plus shows, you'll be able to check them out. But, I do think that this should be a launch pad as well, to where, let's say that they want to make it so that you can only watch, well, maybe not that, but they want to make that like hubs for like Boomerang, for example, which notably Boomerang content is completely missing now from Max. I think that's the only, grouping of content that just got completely removed altogether in the transition alone, because there was some content that got removed before the transition. So that's kind of a loss. But if they want to have like hubs or offer channels a la carte, which a lot of cable companies have been talking about doing, cable channels have been talking about doing, I could definitely see Max being the perfect home for that. I feel like that could definitely work. And I do think to a certain extent those like TLC shows would they would serve that content better by making a 24/7 feed of those shows, because I don't know how many people are like, oh yeah, let's go watch, the latest season of Fixer Upper on demand. Like, but, maybe it's just because there hasn't been a great place to do that, until Discovery Plus came along. So that could be it too. But yes, it's very cool. I think it's going to be awesome once they fix the bugs in the app. I also think they need to make a feature where you can manually select the video quality, because you cannot do that in the app. I tried doing that on my phone, my tablet, and my TV. You can't do that anywhere. So I do think that's a major issue. So hopefully they fix that as well. All right. Let's see here. I think there's one more thing I'm going to react to. Okay. All right. So Veilskibum put out a video about HBO Max being gone. I'm kind of interested to see what he has to say on this. I think that HBO Max moving to Max is ultimately a good move, and the platform is going to be better. It's going to be stronger just because there's a greater wealth of content, and I don't think that animators have a lot of stuff to worry about. I think this is finalizing a lot of those transition kinks too that Warner Brothers Discovery has been experiencing that have prevented things like new shows to be developed and produced for Cartoon Network. Now, granted, we have the writer's strike. We have no idea how long that's going to last, but once that clears up, I don't see any reason why we're not going to get new shows from Cartoon Network, new shows on Adult Swim. And I also think over time we're going to get some of those lost shows from Cartoon Network back on Max as well. So that's going to be kind of nice for everyone who didn't go out and buy that stuff on demand. But anyways, let's go check out this video that Veilskibum made called HBO Max is Gone.
The clouds are gathering. The rain is splashing down. It sure is a nice day to sit inside and relax with some HBO Max. The era of HBO Max is officially over, and viewers are now being treated to the newly one-word streaming service, Max. Their slogan is, the one to watch, when really there's a lot of other stuff, especially when we realize that there are so many problems right out of the gate.
Really?
I can't even log in without getting an error.
I got this error, but they fixed it. I actually got this error. I just needed to retry it a few times and it worked. So if you've had this error logging into HBO, logging into Max, just try again. It worked for me.
They feel pain. Now, with the transformation officially public, Max comes with a few changes. There's more than twice the amount of content than before, but that's mostly thanks to the Discovery side of things. And does anyone really care about that anyway? If you're a Cartoon Network fan, here's some bad news. Even more shows got removed.
Really?
We're talking some of the absolute kings of the channel. From Dexter's Lab, to Foster's Home, to even Flapjack. Come on, guys.
I didn't even notice
I thought
that.
we were
I did notice that Summer Camp Island and Infinity Train both got removed, which was weird because they both were Max originals. So I thought for sure they would stick around on Max, but they both are still not available on Max at all. But Summer Camp Island is going to wrap up on Cartoon Network, so I do assume that Summer Camp Island episodes are going to be available somewhere on demand, whether that be Max or Hulu.
As to this, while Max's initial...
Now, that's actually an interesting thought. I didn't think about that. It's possible that they're just going to rent out that content instead of making it completely unavailable, because we've seen Viacom do this to massive financial success. Just having a business strategy of renting out your content to other people and letting them lease it out forever, because it's just like infinite money glitch.
Jack, come on, guys. I thought we were past this. While Max's initial launch feels like a disaster, there is a bright side to all of this. If you can believe that, animation is winning, with 3 new projects finally here. After 20 years off the air, the legendary Clone High is finally back. This is from the same creators who thought up the original show, and it carries the same spirit of what came before.
Joan of Arc, the love of...
Also, I will say that looking at the catalog, I have been seeing more animated stuff in the Max original section, and it kind of looks like Max wants to also sort of be a home for stuff that ordinarily would have been on Adult Swim, as new shows. Because I do think to a certain extent, Adult Swim is trying to lean more into the fact that the people who actually watch Adult Swim are a little bit older, so they might not want brand new shows all the time. They might want just reruns of older programs. And for shows that maybe target folks who are too old to be in the Cartoon Network demographic, but too young to be in the Adult Swim demographic, and they want to see something new, Max might be the best place to go, especially since the current generation, I guess key demo folks watch on-demand stuff more than they watch live stuff anyways. So one could argue that only a fraction of the folks who are in the target audience of these Adult Swim programs would even watch their stuff when they air for the first time on Adult Swim.
The same spirit of what came before.
Joan of Arc, the love of my life. It's 2003. Guys shouldn't be afraid to talk about feelings.
Oh, Abe, I always want to be your friend.
Do you think we could ever maybe be more than
Hey,
friends?
JFK!
Oh.
What you might realize is that it's not being marketed as a full-on revival, and instead just continues the events of the previous episode.
Yep.
It looks like a fun time, but you know what would make it even more fun? Gandhi. He deserves so much better. Aside from Clone High, though. Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai is now streaming on Max.
I don't care about
It
Gremlins.
serves as a prequel to the original movie, and there's not much I can say about it because I'm just not interested in Gremlins. I like the animation at least. If you're into this kind of thing, go give it a watch. And finally, Max gave us the full English dub of Villainous. It's the first time we're getting an official release in America, and you love to see it.
Yes, I haven't seen Villainous, but I've heard really, really good things about it. If there's a new cartoon I check out, which I'm pretty busy and I have a lot of shows on my plate, but if there is a new cartoon that I would check out, I think Villainous might be one of the top programs on that list.
Now I know how it feels when other countries need to wait forever for things America gets first. It doesn't feel good. But overall, this really is the end, and also a new beginning. I still think calling a streaming service Max is stupid, because now I'm just thinking of all the characters named Max, and I'm never gonna get used to that. Whatever, we'll see how this goes.
Yo, I hate Max and Ruby.
But anyway, that's all for this video.
But, I mean, it's interesting. I don't think at the end of the day that naming it Max is going to be as big of a deal as people are making it out to be, because people are just going to get used to it. I do think that keeping the name HBO Max would have just made more sense. Or just calling it like One or something would have made more sense than just calling it Max, but it's whatever. It's whatever. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Max does. I suspect that they're going to be like the top streaming platform. But maybe not. Maybe not. Well, what do you guys think? Tell me in the comment section. I'm curious. All right, let's see. So, I know this is going to be kind of a shorter stream today, but I want to give myself some time to edit the videos, and also, I got work tomorrow. So I know I usually don't stop my streams this early, but I'm tired, I got work, I gotta edit videos. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. But thanks to everyone who tuned in. I appreciate all of you guys popping into the chat, and I will see you guys later. Peace.